Hi and welcome back. I hope you're doing well and keeping safe. Today I've got 10 awesome little jump spots for you guys to use within Call of Duty Warzone that might help you get that awesome little bit of loot that's just out of reach, or be able to turf out some of those campers on the building you're pushing. Without any further ado, let's get into it with jump spot number 1, which is this downtown roof. Now, to get up onto this roof, obviously you can parachute down from that big building over there, and you should always make sure that that building is clear of people camping on top of it before you try and hop up onto this roof. But you want to jump up onto the hedgerow, then hop across these two buildings. On the second building you'll see this black metal pole. You want to hop up on top of that, and then you can vault up onto the roof. Now on the roof there's usually a couple bits of loot lying around, and very commonly a contract or two as well. Now this is quite an advantageous position because you're able to overlook a random spawn of this buy station, but as I said, you do have to be careful of the other tall buildings around you. But there are enough circles that end within this area where it's actually quite useful to be on this roof. And another positive of this roof is you don't actually have to parachute to get off of it. You can just hop straight off and you won't take any fall damage. So that is really helpful when you're pushing that last circle. You don't have to go through that annoying animation. Next up is this 2-story building, and you see these all over the map, and there's only one way to really push them, which is up these stairwells. And there are so many ways to cover when you get up these stairs. Obviously you can try and jump up this ladder, but going up a ladder is always pretty much certain death in this game because you have to go through that sort of mildly lengthy animation to get out of it, and there's usually someone sitting on the top. Now to get up there without using either of these two, you want to step on the steps, then jump onto this electrical box which is on the front of every single one of these buildings, and then you can jump across the front of the building and through into this window. It's often best to usually break the window so you don't make that noise of breaking glass as you come up through. Maybe chuck a C4 in there to soften your enemies up before you before you jump up through there. Also, you must be pushing with your team. Now, jumping up here on your own is probably not the best idea because there's probably someone looking at a different angle as well. But if you've got teammates pushing up the stairs and throwing C4s, then it's a pretty good distraction method of getting up there as well. Next up is the firehouse outside of Stadium. Now, all you want to do is jump up onto the air conditioning unit, sprint forward, and then you can double jump up into this window. This gives you a good way of flanking up onto the stairs. Again, you should always be pushing with your team, and it gives you a pretty good quick access route to throw some C4 up into that top roof as well. Now, this isn't the same on all the buildings. Each one of these firehouses usually has some form of way of getting up into this building. This one over by the edge of downtown has some boxes which allows you to do exactly the same, and it just allows you to hop in really quickly without having to go up the stairs, which are always a choke point and pretty much a certain death. Next up is one of my favourite ones, which is down on this bar. Now, unfortunately, this is not on every single one of them, and some of them don't have any access points in. But this one does have a great access point in this area just below TV station. What you want to do is jump up onto this concrete wall, then up onto the slightly raised section, take a step back so you're almost falling off the back of it, and then run forward and jump, and you can jump up onto the edge. Obviously, you want to do this with a couple players at the same time so you can push both doors at the same time, and again, have your third and fourth teammates even pushing the stairs as well, so you can completely sort of surround all angles and catch people off guard. And it's a much better way of pushing the building rather than trying to just push straight up the stairs. Next up is this building towards the backside of Lumber. Now, I've had quite a few circles end towards this, and obviously you are very susceptibly shot in the back by the giant hill on the back, and you often see quite a few people just sitting there with their HDRs and not really shooting for the entire duration of the game until you sort of come into line and sit on the top of a roof, and a very easy kill for them. So make sure you sort of clear this area of the map because it is very strong for them to be able to get up there. But what you want to do is jump up onto the little forklift, and then you can hop up onto the roofs really easily. And this gives you a really advantageous position over the entirety of Lumber. And for the most part, it's pretty strong because you've got a very good head glitch. You can also duck out of cover from that giant rock. So all in all, a pretty good spot to be holding over the top of Lumber. Next up are one of these really annoying apartment buildings that are spattered all over the map. However, they do have these little pillboxes on the top, and when you vault, you can vault up onto the stairwell and get a little look through the top windows which allow you to clear the roof, and you can push more conveniently, as this guy now conveniently shows me exactly where you can peek people from. But you also want to be pushing this with your teammates at the same time. You don't want to be pushing sort of solo, so you can clear both sides of the roof and make it much easier for you to be able to jump outside and clear the entire rooftop. But it just gives you a slight little advantage. You can do it from both sides, and it gives you a very good, clear sort of line of sight over to the other side. You can clear just in front of the door any of the explosives that are sitting there, anyone sitting on top or holding that head glitch behind it. Next up are these warehouses just outside of airport. Now you want to run over to them, hop onto this little fire hydrant, then you can vault onto this little ledge above the door, and you can hop in through this window, catch anyone out here, or jump up the stairs. And it's probably best to push with one teammate running up here and one person running this other route. Now on the other route, you want to jump up onto the top of this door, and then you want to run across this little roof, and then you can vault over onto this sort of little ledge, and then you want to take a little step away from the ledge, so you sort of just off the wall. Then you can vault up onto this next level, and then once you're up on this next level, you can take a running jump and jump into this building. Now obviously you want to push that with your teammate pushing up that other stairwell as well, so you can catch people really quickly and push from multiple angles. And that's usually the best way of fighting any fight, is pushing from multiple little angles. Now obviously this isn't the same on every single one of these buildings. Each one of them has a slightly different sort of setup to how exactly they're going to work. For example, this one over in lumber, you kind of come over to these crates. You can obviously go up the ladder, but you can jump up onto these sort of electrical cable reels, and then you could obviously take that step out and vault up onto here, and then you can vault into here. And this is often a very sort of common pace for people to be holding, and the amount of fights I've had just in this little area there is probably more than I actually think about. Also, there's another little sort of quick little tip. If you ever need to get up onto the roof to get some crate or anything up there, you want to jump up onto the outside edge of that railing, and then you can run up onto the roof. That's your best way of getting up onto this roof, and there's often always like a crate hidden up there anyway. Next up, we have this building downtown. Now obviously I wouldn't always recommend taking these elevator shafts because they're pretty much certain death when you get to the top of them. Someone's deciding to watch this, you've got to go through an animation, and they can sit there shooting you while your gun's still not coming out, which is a pain in the ass to do. So occasionally it's usually best to push the stairwells, although it is boring as hell pushing the stairwells forever. Now instead of pushing out the door, again you want to be pushing with your teams. All you want to do is you want to jump up onto this window ledge, and then you can vault out onto here and then hop onto the roof. Now when jumping up onto here, it allows you to sort of cover all the angles that people are going to be sitting holding the doors, and obviously you don't have to run through about going through the explosives. And obviously there are people that are aware of this, so obviously be aware that you want to be pushing with your team. As a guy pushes the door, you want to be pushing there, so you've got two angles to cover at the same time. It makes it very difficult to sort of cover two positions at once. Also, you can push the other stairwell and do pretty much exactly the same thing, although this stairwell is slightly better because you're on a more elevated position. Next up is everyone's least favourite building to try and push, which is twins, because the only way up are the two awful stairwells on either side. Now, interestingly enough, you can actually do a bit of Stretch Armstrong work here and actually open the doors from the floor below, which kind of catches people a little bit off guard, and you can sort of get a little bit of a head glitch, sort of only just showing the top of your head as you push the window. But the main issue with this building is obviously there are so many angles to cover when you come out. Someone can be behind the door, someone can be sat over there, someone can be just sat any sort of different little position to hold this angle on the door, and it's very difficult to push out when you've got like 3 or 4 different angles to cover. So you should always have one person pushing that doorway, and your other teammate can jump up on this ledge and then vault across over to here. Now I always find it's better to try and push towards the edge of this sign, because if something goes completely tits up and they are very much aware that you're going to be doing this, you can hop off the edge of the building and to safety relatively quickly. Maybe not perfectly, if they down you before you fall, then obviously down, but as far as I'm aware, this area is bulletproof, and it limits down the angles that you can sort of be shot from as you do this. And obviously you want to be pushing at the same time as someone coming through the door, so it just makes you have multiple angles to attack from. If there's no one coming from this side and your teammate's pushing from the other side of the building, you can obviously hop up onto here, and it'll give you a good angle, line of sight down onto this side of the building as well. Now obviously I'm probably going to kick myself for doing this, but it's also when you're defending this area, if you ever have to be pushed against someone, rather than just trying to fight the doors or again holding this, always be aware that people can do this, but you can actually drop down a couple floors without pulling your parachute and then flank up behind the enemies as they're pushing the door. And this is very obviously, again, shooting people from multiple angles is always going to give you the best chance of winning a gunfight against a squad. The more competent the squad is, being able to push people from multiple angles definitely makes it much more powerful. And finally we come to Superstore. Now this is a pain in the arse of a little room to push within Superstore. It's got a very advantageous lookout across some of the ground floor. It's got a stairwell which is a pain in the arse to push. You can actually hop up on the filing cabinet behind it and hold a ridiculous angle which is almost impossible to see as you're pushing in. And everyone's got to push through that mainly one door. It's a pain in the arse to get into an early game, especially when you don't have C4s and everything else to be able to flash the room or blow half of it up to be able to weaken up the enemies before you push in. So what you want to do is you want to run outside of this building and you want to come over to this main vaulting window. Obviously be careful that no one's going to shoot you whilst you're vaulting up onto this window, but as you vault up you then want to turn around and vault into the wall. There's this tiny little ledge you can sort of sit on, then you want to wait for your jump to recharge, and then you can vault up into this tiny little room. Obviously be aware people are going to be sitting in this, could be sitting in this room as well, but this just gives you a third option to be able to jump up into this room. Anyway guys, these are some of my top jump spots to use within Call of Duty Warzone. I have some more, so I might be making some more videos along these lines in the future. I hope you enjoyed them and found something useful, and I shall see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye for now. Bye.